All right, I know there's more folks out there. Yeah, well, it's been 3. Yeah, what do you think this is, Marriott? Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. We know we got folks that are watching, I assume, from their office desk and would like to be moving along. So, our next 2 presenters are from the Virginia Department of Taxation. First, excuse me, Jeremy Armstrong is manager in the Customer Service Contact Center. He's worked for the department for 8 years, and responsibilities include managing all the inbound and outbound contacts through telephones, correspondence, walk-in taxpayers. Also with us is Dennis Carlton, and he specializes in business and analytic services. And with that, we will let you go with Virginia Tax.
All right. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Glad to be here. This is my second year. I came last year with Lee Michelson and got to be part of this. And I'm glad I'm back this year to share some information regarding the Virginia Department of Taxation's changes. So to get started, I'm going to go over some tools and things that similar to what we did last year. We talked about some things that will help your lives and our taxpayers' lives better. Some new services and some changes, legislative changes, form changes, and then I'll answer some questions at the end. I think there's some topics that I'm sure some of you are very interested in talking about today. So, tools that will help you. Definitely our website is probably the greatest tool that we have for all of you to use, if not a live person. But I wanted to point out some highlights of the website. We have redesigned the tax professional site a little bit this year. And I don't know how many of you use the site, but it is definitely something I think that could help you in your lives and what the jobs you do. So just to kind of highlight some of the pieces of it, I would have liked to have shown you the website itself, but to kind of touch base on those things. Online filing services, approved e-file software that it's compatible for all of us, any tax resources that may help you, documents and forms. And we also have, the site also helps e-file developers and provides the resources for those folks, as well as substitute forms that can be used for filing. This year we've created a new tax guide. One of our staff members who works with Dennis, along with Dennis and Lee Michelson, they created a guide for the upcoming taxable year 2014, and the changes, most of those are forms related. That's a very good resource. If you haven't gone out, please check that out. I think that's a great basis for helping you see what's coming about. We are, my staff, I have typically about 130 to 150 reps that take calls, talk to the taxpayers. We are getting this training, which we typically get in January, so the systems changes are being done to prepare us for that training, and you have actually, we put it out to you before we even provided it to my staff. So in hopes that we would get some feedback, and it's a great resource, and we've had some good feedback regarding it. In addition to the website, within the website, there's new information for individuals and new information for business that we update when new things come about. There's also legislative summary reports, early release forms, There is information about power of attorney and declaration of representatives and taxpayer rights. Other key features of the website, again, are what's new. Again, we put that out when things come out regarding individuals and businesses, as well as we redesigned the policy library, which we now call Laws, Rules, and Decisions. The online services page is very important. I think a lot of folks are definitely into that with electronic filing. We have been beefing up that area in our world to be able to service the taxpayers as we continue to push taxpayers to our website. In addition to that, where's my refund? We know that's a very important piece to most taxpayers. So they are able to get that through the website, as well as the telephone. We have a telephone line dedicated for that information. Also, our contact information and mailing information is available. How many of you are signed up for e-alerts for the Virginia Department of Taxation? If you are not, it would be a great idea for you to sign up. And it's really easy to sign up for. Page. It's right on the front page of our home page. On the right-hand side, click on the button. It gives you options for the different types of taxes that you may be interested in. If you want all of them, or there's a tax preparer site that probably would fit you best. But you can get information updates that we put out. We've been putting out more and more information as things have been changing recently. We send out something at least once a month, depending on the tax type. Due date reminders, things like that, and any other policy or procedural type changes that we are able to put out. We've been using that. Just like last year, I wanted to point out some things that will help some of the problems that we seem to get on an ongoing basis. And this out-of-state tax return when you e-file, that seems to have been or is an issue sometimes. And I wanted to point that out as one of the topics for avoiding problems and delays for our taxpayers. So the software typically should prompt if you are if someone needs an out-of-state tax credit. That should prompt them at the time. It should be done at that time. It should be entered or attached at that point. If you go past that point and there's no ID or reference ID for that particular transaction when it's prompted, our system may not recognize it, and most likely it will not recognize it when we get it. So that may be an issue that some of you have experienced. We want to avoid that going forward if at all possible. So the best thing to do is to attach that when it's prompted, not afterwards or at the end. If the software does not prompt you at that to attach the out-of-state credit, we've provided an email address in the presentation that you can use to send to for us to try and locate it. Because when a call comes in from the taxpayer or from you, and you say, I sent that information in, we may not be able to see it because it didn't come in with the attachments, or it did come in with the attachments what was not identified as the form that we were looking for. So what typically happens is we send a letter out saying we were missing this. So we want to, again, avoid that problem. Another problem, which we think is real simple to, is if somebody gets a bill in error and they have filed their return, a lot of times you may file the return for the taxpayer and they may pay later. There's some disconnect, so to speak. It's important that you advise your client or taxpayer to use the proper voucher form so we can match those payments and returns together. As well as making sure that Social Security number and the tax year is on that form so we know where it goes. We don't recommend submitting payment with another copy of the return. That's just going to cause more delay. that happens a lot in our processing world. Refunds, they're missing. Make sure you check your client's bank account. Sounds real simple, but we have folks call in and say, "Hey, my tax preparer filed this, and we don't know where our refund is." And we go through and we say, "Well, it was issued on such and such a date, and it was direct deposited." Well, in some cases, we may be able to get that. It should indicate to us that it came back and is then maybe reissued as a check or a debit card, depending on the situation. So make sure you verify the bank account as well as the address, the taxpayer's mailing address. We know people move and they change bank accounts on a regular basis based on the security breaches that seem to happen around our world now. Also, I think it would be a very good help if you would let your clients know about offsets, the offset programs. Between probably in the month of February, we get a great deal of offset, set-off type questions from taxpayers. Most of them should realize that they probably have a debt with some state entity or locality, but they seem to forget, and we enlighten them, and they get upset about it. So if you could share that, that would be helpful for us as well as you, most likely. Again, these are simple things.
Jeremy, before you go past
yes, sorry.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
As to the refunds, and this I've just heard from some practitioners this year, but as to the debit cards, I've heard some people are saying that because there's so little identification with the debit card when it comes, there's nothing to say that it's a tax refund, doesn't indicate a tax year, that some people are opening these thinking that they're somebody's gift of a card and they didn't want them, and sometimes they're finding their way into the trash.
Sure.
Is there some way to provide maybe a little more identification of what the cards are so people, when they open it up, know that it's a tax refund? And
I'm going to defer this question to Dennis because this is Dennis's forte.
Unfortunately, I got saddled with the debit card when it first came in. You're right. It's only a name. As a matter of fact, we've had some issues with
Come on this side of the black line.
And seniors in the same house. We won't put a junior, a third, a second. So we had some issues with dad getting sons and sons getting dads. It does clearly state, though, it's got the state seal right there on it. Go program, tax refund. We were having a discussion back there about it. We had a very loud noise about these things the first year. We put out 480,000 of these things. We only had to recall 300. The people who were having the problems with them were the elderly, the activation part of it. But those same people don't want to give you that direct deposit information. So maybe we could make it optional. I don't know. We thought it was going to die this year. We had 5 bills in the General Assembly that were killing it. One of them passed, but then the budget killed it. It's a $200,000 supposed savings every year, but it may come back again next year to kill it. We don't know. Maybe it'll be optional. Maybe the default will be checked. We don't know yet. We did rewrite our instructions. It's got a carrier, and we made some improvements. We had joint taxpayers that were an issue. They thought they could activate one card and then the other one go use it to shop with. You got to activate the card you're using.
Each card.
Each card. I mean, you can only use one, but you have to activate the one you're going to take to the bank or the store. I don't know where it's going.
So Mark, we try to make it as obvious as we could that it is a refund check. It's on the statement. It's on the card mailer that goes with it. But again, a lot of people get those things and they think it is a solicitation and they toss it in the trash.
Is there a reason there's no dollar amount on there? Like if you got a paper check, you would know what the check's worth. This case, you're getting a debit card and you have no idea what the dollar amount is.
I don't know if that's come up with any suggestion changes or not.
It hasn't, but it has been an issue for us too, because if you say you want an OPC the next year and we adjust it, and there's a difference, say there's $50 more now, we're not gonna OPC that, we're gonna cut you a refund. Well, we're cutting you a refund on a debit card, because that's the default. Well, you're getting the card, you don't know how much is on it, you're thinking it's in your entire refund. So you're sending it back to me, cutting little pieces. And that's not what I asked you to do. Normally, I'll just say, this is what the deal was, call the GO program, and they'll send you another card for that amount. Back to the direct deposits, that's a bigger issue than the debit cards to me. So far this year, we've gotten 28,300 direct deposits rejected from the bank.
That's
Already.
because the direct deposit account information's wrong.
wrong.
That's wrong.
People close accounts a lot and change banks. So that's a bigger deal for us than the debit cards that get mailed back to me or the processing.
Did we answer your question? We tried, right? Anybody else have any questions related to that? Okay. Back to our simple things to fix or help fix. Make sure that all the documentation that is necessary is submitted to us, as well as verify estimated or extension payments to ensure what's being reported is what we have. There's a lot of discrepancies that come up with that, and a lot of calls that come in. And one thing that I'm sorry, yes, sir.
Is there an easy way for a client to check what you all have in your records? We find that to be a huge problem. I think they made an estimate, swear they did, and then it varies from what you have instead of record. But there doesn't seem to be an easy way for them to verify what you have.
All right. So the question is for those folks that are online, is there a way for taxpayers to verify what we have on file? The easiest answer that I can give to that is for them or you to contact us for us to tell you what we have on record. I think there may be some disconnect at times related to folks when they make payments to us directly or to the localities. So there's that, as well as someone forgetting that they should have made a payment or they did, and there's a lot of that happens. So the best answer I can give is to contact us about that.
Yeah, I have heard talk about it being something like a "Where's my refund?" lookup. Right. And it's not just I forgot. We may have adjusted it.
Yeah.
Now it's $100 less this year, and it snowballs. Now it's 3 years later, and it's $1,000 less than what you thought you had. I don't know if that's coming, but I mean we've got the "Where's my refund?" and Jeremy's going to talk about the 1099. So it doesn't seem that far off to check your estimated payments.
I think that's
not there now.
That's a future piece. I know if a taxpayer is registered within iFile, the old iFile system, we still, if they're still registered for that, they can still make payments into that and see that record. One thing that I added late in this presentation was making sure that folks use the correct addition, subtraction, or deduction codes. I had actually some escalated contacts last filing season regarding these. The taxpayer said that, but they used the wrong code, and there was some confusion and created some issues. Important phone number for all of you to have. If you don't have it, write it down. This is our hotline. I have folks dedicated that take calls through this phone line. This group's been there. Percy Everson, if you are familiar with him, he's retired, but I have some folks that have filled his shoes. This is going to be your best group to answer your questions. They will put you through verification process just like anybody else that contacts us. I'm sorry. That's the way it's got to be. But yes, please contact or use the hotline. Yes, sir. I'm going to talk about that and give me a few minutes. I have 6 or 7 slides dedicated to that, and I can talk a little bit more about that. But yes, I knew from last year, the the power of attorney process is shaky for some of us. Okay. As Dennis was saying, new services that are coming. One of those is an electronic 1099-G or INT form. So we are creating a portal on our website, similar to Where's My Refund, that taxpayers or preparers can go to and pull that. We put on the form on the tax form last year to there was a checkbox on the 2013 form to opt out of getting a paper 1099-G. And so this is the way of many other states are using this now, and we are jumping on that. And our goal is to eliminate, again, help us reduce the mailing, the cost of the mailing of those forms, and push folks into the electronic world as much as we can. So all taxpayers' information is going to be available. If they need to get it, or you may need to get it, it's going to be 5 items, I believe, to you, 4 or 5 items that you'll need to verify yourself, to get in, authenticate yourself to get the information, and it will only be for 2013 tax years at this point. Question?
2013?
I'm sorry, yes, correct. 2013, 2014 information. It's written down here wrong, I believe. So our goal is, again, is to save us some money and to give folks easier access to these forms. Go green. That was one of the. I think that was one of our topics a few years ago. So we want to try and push folks to that as much as we can.
Even if they didn't check the box, their information's still going to be out there.
Right.
So it's not just those ones that you go back and look at their return and he checked it. All of it's going to be out there. They're just checking to say, don't bother sending me paper. So you can get all of their refund information.
And the same checkbox will be on this year's as well, to opt out of that. Okay. Next. We are going to be providing a 500 EZ form through our eForm system that's accessible through our website. And there are some requirements to be able to use that form, and 100% of the corporation's business must be in the state. The FTI cannot exceed 25,000. Total additions or subtractions from FTI equal 1,000 or less. No NOL deductions for the year being filed. No 500 credit. No 500 CR credits. There's no the corporation not required to pay the federal alternative minimum tax. They're not required to file forms 500T or 500EL, and the corporation does not claim any fixed date conformity adjustments. So that's hopefully will help a lot of the small corporations, as well as we've already begun this with the PTE form. The 502EZ form will also be out and available for those PTEs. And again, there are some requirements. They must be in Virginia. They must be from 100% of Virginia source income. The PTE's commercial domicile must be in Virginia. They should have no more than 10 owners within the PTE. No claims may not claim credits or have fixed date conformity adjustments. The income must be 0 to 25,000. Total additions and total subtractions must equal or less $1,000. To add on to that, there is a filing mandate for PTEs that will be effective on January 1 for taxable years 2014. So they will be required to file and pay just like the sales and use and the withholding taxpayers that are already required to meet that requirement. There is a hardship waiver process that we have in place if someone cannot meet that requirement.
Jeremy?
Yes, sir.
For the EZ forms, why did you pick 1,000 for the deductions. It seems awfully low for a small.
Do you have an answer to that, Dennis? Actually, I don't have an answer for that either, but we'll have to get that answer. I know a lot of the corporations they focused on the homeowners associations. I know that was a big area that came out that I know of. But regarding the decision points, I don't have that answer to that question. Sorry. Any additional questions? Yes.
Will a tax professional be able to access clients' VA 1099
If they have the taxpayer's information to authenticate, yes, they can. Yes, they can. And my reps will also, if you call in, they will also provide that information to the tax preparer or the taxpayer. To get if they've opted out of getting the form, we can create a letter to represent the 1099-G amount if necessary. Yes, sir, in the back. The question is, if you have out-of-state owners from the 502 and they have withholding, the answer to that, I believe, is no. They're going to need to file the regular way. Any other questions related to that? I'm gonna start talking about some cool stuff, I think. Our compliance group, and this is another add-on for this presentation, that our compliance group now has the ability to do mobile collections through an iPad. A pilot began a couple months ago, and it's doing really great. They are projecting that we're going to bring in almost $2 million for the fiscal year 2015, which is definitely needed. So that's interesting. For that group, and this is my opinion, for that group to jump into this electronic mobile world is a great thing, and I'm glad they're doing it. From my perspective. Yes, sir.
There is one more bill that passed. I believe it was Senate Bill 611, talking about electronic devices. You guys know about a zapper? I wish I'd have known about it when I owned the business. It's a sales suppression device. You can put on your cash register or your software, your computer, whatever, and it redirects part of your sales, so we don't know about it. That is really on our auditors' radar right now, and they're going to get better and better at it. We came up with it through Canada, and once they figured out how to detect it was on there, their sales reporting jumped big time. It is going to be this year a Class 1 misdemeanor with a $20,000 fine if they catch somebody with a zapper.
What is it? Where do you buy it?
I guess there's a lot of them for sale in Canada right
Yeah, that's
now.
what I'm saying. Maybe be able to get them in Canada.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's the nickname. It's a sales suppression device.
Everybody looking for it? All right. A hot topic from last year is the power of attorney form, process. And I have some slides that kind of define what it is. I think most of you guys know what it is. To get to the gentleman's concern earlier in the process, a few slides ago, we're working on it. It's been a process. This changed 4 or 5 years ago. The new form changed. In my area, we got very tight with security, and then we started asking everybody to fill out a POA, and that just caused a lot of havoc. And now we've stepped back from that. Security is still important, but we know we need these forms for certain situations, and other situations we do not. So as I go into this, the biggest thing from my point of view is that we get them and they're not filled out correctly. I have a small staff that handles all the POAs that come into the department, and 50% of them we send back to the people that send them in, because they're missing the tax account information, they're missing the tax, they're missing a signature, they're missing names, they're missing simple things, and we send them back. So that's probably the biggest point I want to push out regarding those. Again, a lot of these slides, and you guys have the presentation, I think, in front of it. They're very basic. They follow the instructions. If you're not a registered or an authorized agent, you need to be in order to have. If you need to get correspondence from your taxpayers, that's probably the biggest thing that changed a few years ago. Was you fill out the new PAR form, and you also completed an R7 form to be an authorized agent, so you could get correspondence that the taxpayer gets. That's probably the biggest gist of it. Well, we have folks that fill out the PAR 101 form and they don't do the R7, and they mark it as if they want the correspondence, but they don't have a registered. They're not an authorized agent, so we have to send a letter out to them to get them to do that. Again, half of the people do that, and the other half don't. Very common sense kind of stuff that kind of bogs us down a lot regarding those. Let me go back just one step. So just to clarify, the authorized agent number is not the same as your federal CAF or enrollment card number. Just to clarify that, if there was any confusion. That's a number that we assign. Again, this is more informative. I don't want to bore you any more than I already probably have with this, but we're working towards having the ability to fax directly to one of my staff. I think the IRS may have this already in place, but we're working towards that. I'm working through the system issues that I've got to deal with. I've got to train my staff, so hopefully in January my staff will be prepared to receive a fax and to either work it immediately or assign it to someone that can get it done quickly. That's my goal, is to get that in place. Oh, let me go back.
So you're saying that could be like during the phone conversation?
During the phone conversation, yes. We have write fax. I don't know if you've heard of that term. We have the system that all of my staff can get a fax number. They can be sent directly to their desktop. They get a notification via email and can work that piece either immediately or shortly thereafter to resolve the issue that they're working on. This is it. Yes, so this is what I'm talking about. I'm very I'm looking forward to this day. I'm sure a lot of you are as well. Yes, and with that will also come additional training for basically the hotline staff is going to be my pilot group, and they are going to be getting that training in December to be able to start doing this in January. So hopefully that will assist with some of the issues that you've had in the past, and you can get them resolved quickly. We're also doing some formatting changes to the PAR 101 form, which should probably be out sometime early next year as well. Okay. Here comes the hot topic. Let me make sure I got my notes for it. Live chat. If you are on the e-alerts, you got a message sometime early last week that live chat will be eliminated because of budget cuts, budget reductions, effective at the end of this year. We have received some feedback, and a lot of it, I think, speaking with Emily last week, some of you guys are pretty vocal about it. I'll be glad to field some of the questions if you like. I'll try to answer them if I can.
How much money are you really saving in the budget?
It's listed in the budget report as like 140 grand, but I think it's a lot more than that. So we basically the system that we currently use is we implemented it in 2011. So it's at its end of life, and we were preparing to purchase a new system. The live chat products that we've been using have been relatively inexpensive. The first one we bought was like $1,000 in 2009. We purchased another system. It was like $35,000, $40,000. So going into this new world of heightened security, it was going to be a lot more to pay for a new system. Okay. In addition to that, I'm not paying my staff overtime. There's cost savings with the payroll. There's cost savings for the system part. There's also the lowering our risk of security issues that our internal audit group brought out that they were concerned. They've been concerned about it, I think, since we started. But we've knock on wood, I think we've done a good job at keeping that at bay. But with the potential of the security risk that we have, the agency wanted to mitigate that as much as possible, and I think that was probably a big decision in addition to the cost of it. We had actually started looking at changing some of the ways we were helping taxpayers. And what I mean by that is limiting what we provide through live chat. And in the future, if we reinstate this program, it will be very generic. Washington State is the only other state that I know of that uses live chat right now. They do very general questions. They don't do any tax-specific things. They came to us. We told them what we were doing, and they opted to do just general type questions. And they have had success with that. But I know it has been a very good communication link with a lot of folks. Over 230,000 live chats we took in the last fiscal year. That's a lot of contacts. You know where they're all going to go? They're all going to call. They're going to call. That's what I'm anticipating. I don't know if it's the case or not, but my staff that are currently on live chat, they're all going to transition back to the telephones. Some of them haven't taken a phone call in 4.5 years, so that's a challenge for us that we're working on and getting them back into place. But are there any questions or concerns that I can try to address? Awesome. I'm glad. You know, end of the day, I'm glad I'm at the end of the day for this. But I was expecting some comments regarding that. I'm glad we're moving on. Well, I could talk a little bit about that if you want. We had some folks that would try to connect with us that represented themselves as a taxpayer, and we knew that they weren't because we could see where they were coming from. Kind of like, yeah, you could see the I can't think of what it's called, the IP, where they're coming in, the IP address. So we have a few folks, rogue folks that would try to get in and represent themselves as a taxpayer, and we actually blocked a few of those people because we were afraid of who they were and what they were trying to do. So, well, we try for those situations, and my reps pointed it out. Those were the folks. My reps pointed out that, hey, this doesn't look right, and we started researching it and found out that someone was not doing what they're supposed to do. So, okay. So, income tax treatment of same-sex marriage. Since I wasn't here for the earlier part, we are now, as of Tax Bulletin 14.7, we are taking returns from same-sex marriages, and there's a three-year window that they can file for if they want to do so. I'm sorry? Yes, celebration state. Yes, sir. All right. Legislative changes. I'm going to try and zip through this. How much time do we have? Okay. So, if you're not aware, our employer withholding due date for our VA-6 forms, it's changing to January the 31st from February the 28th. I believe, why? The biggest reason is refund tax fraud. That's probably the biggest reason for us doing it. It's probably the sole reason, let me just say that. With the amount of tax fraud or fraudulently filed returns, we feel that by moving that due date will help us ensure that we don't send out refunds that aren't who they say they are. I don't have any statistics. I know that it increases every year the potential of refunds that go out to these kinds of situations, but Dennis probably knows.
Most of the fraud we're getting early on, they've already got their returns prepared. They're sitting and waiting. As soon as the button is flipped, they're sending those in. And they're filing electronically, and they're using direct deposit most of the time. So they're watching that direct deposit. We can't verify their withholding. You know.
So you really are going to verify withholding before?
I certainly hope so.
We already do that. We are.
Before you issue a refund, you verify all?
We do it if we have it. We do it if we have it. If it's already in our system electronically, we are doing it. It's a check that we go through. So.
It doesn't hold up anyone's refund if you don't have it.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's just a check that we go through to validate it.
We thought the debit card was going to pretty much kill a lot of that. We didn't arrest them. Someone in Georgia got arrested on an unrelated charge. She had 300 debit cards at home. She had 6 of them on her, but when they got back, they had 300 of them. I mean, we've got to do something. It's like quadrupling every year, the fraud cases.
So, I've been with tax for 10 years. I think my bio says 8. I've been here for 10. I believe that the due date was like that previously, and I don't know what the reason was they changed or why it was that way to begin with, but it was the January 30th before, or 31st before, probably 2000 maybe. So the biggest thing is that refunds are going out. It will allow us to process them faster. And did anyone from the IRS give their processing date this year? Since I missed it.
Depends on Congress.
Okay, that's what I figured was gonna be said, but I wasn't sure if they were able to give any dates. The longer the startup date is good for me because I've got new staff coming on that are going to be answering those refund questions, so it helps. Okay. Conformity to enhanced federal earned income tax credit. Sorry. I thought I clicked the button. So this extends our Virginia's conformity to the enhanced EITC provisions for taxable years 2013 through 2017. Next. We will now be, if your taxpayer would like to designate part of their refund or all their refund to a 529 plan. We are working with the 529 group agency to get these refunds in place. So that's a I think I don't know how many folks are going to jump on board with that, but it's something that my group has to be trained on to be able to help answer the questions that are going to come out. So we've created a new schedule, a VAC schedule that will help allocate those refunds to certain accounts. Yes, it's only. The question is it only for Virginia's 529 plans? And the answer is yes, it's only for Virginia's 529. The next topic is first-time homebuyer savings accounts. A bank account may be designated as tax exempt for first-time home buyer savings accounts. Distributions from those accounts may only be used for paying or reimbursing down payments and allowable closing costs for the purchase of a single-family residence in Virginia. In addition to that, capital gains and interest income attributed to that may be subtracted for, using code 54 from the taxable Virginia taxable income of the account holder. $50,000 of principal may be contributed to the account. Maximum amount of principal and interest that may be retained in accounts is limited to $150,000. Subtractions must be recaptured in the taxable years in which distributions from accounts are used. In addition, Code of 17 is required for any capital loss related to an account that was deducted for federal income tax purposes. Any questions for that topic? Dennis can answer those.
That's everybody's. It's going to be a back-end audit. If you call us and say, "What do I need to send in with it?" We're going to have a list out there of things we want. You know, what's your bank account? Where is your banking institution? What's the account number? But how am I going to know? It's going to be a back-end audit deal. And I think while we're on that, I think it's named wrong. First-time home buyer. If you inherited a house, you can't use this, even though you didn't buy that house. You owned it. So that's one ruling we've already got from policy. So it's really a first-time owner house savings account. You're right. That's the first thing that came to everybody's mind when we saw this come out of the General Assembly. How are we going to know whether you took it out and bought a car or you took right?
So will the bank account be, in the title of the bank account, be titled that way?
It does not have to be. No, it can. We've got some guidelines. I don't think it's published to you guys yet. It's still in policy. It's going to come out. You're going to have a beneficiary designee. So no, it doesn't have to be this saving account in the name of first-time home buyer John Jones. No, you can designate more than one. Can you what? Can be a boat with a commode. I don't know about the commode.
It's got to have cooking facilities, restroom facilities, and a place to sleep.
It's okay with me.
That's the federal rules. That's what you're going to go by.
Like I said, this is all up in there. They're still writing drafts. It'll be out there shortly, I hope.
Domestic international sales corporations. Exempt interest charged to these folks from federal Virginia corporate income tax. Shareholders will be subject to Virginia income taxation on any dividends received from these. Next, long-term care insurance tax credit. This is repealed for taxable years beginning on or after January of this year. The credit will remain on the Schedule CR to allow taxpayers to claim that credit. In prior years, it's carried over. Educational improvement scholarships tax credit. Taxpayers may now claim credit for taxable year in which they make monetary or marketable securities donations to qualified scholarship foundations instead of claiming the credit for the following year. This applies to monetary or marketable securities donations that are made in taxable years beginning on or after 2014. How much time we got? I'm going to go through these quickly. Other tax credits, just the highlights: research and development expense tax credits, motion picture production tax credit, neighborhood assistance tax credit, Virginia Port Authority tax credits. If you guys are interested more in those, you can look at the legislative summary that we have under the website that I mentioned earlier. Retail sales and use tax for satellite television programming equipment. I'm not going to read these. Accelerated sales tax phase out. The plan is to phase this out in 2016. Each year, the taxable sales go up, so it affects fewer folks. Forms. I'm going to go through this quickly. We have a copy of a 1954 tax form. How simple things were then. I wish they were this simple now. Here's our new form. And I've got some highlights to talk about. Let's see. So this is kind of an overarching thing. This is regarding the guide that I mentioned at the beginning of our, am I in the right spot? Yeah, why don't you?
Okay. If you go back, 760, it's going to look a little different, but your CG is going to look a little different too. One of the complaints we had was, that I've been hearing, we're asking for a driver's license number. I know that guy's not in front of you when you do your tax return. We're not going to reject it. We're not going to reject it if you don't have the driver's license on it. It's going to help us, again, with fraud, identifying those people later. We've moved some of the things. We had a problem. We had the taxpayers listing their socials up here, and then down at the bottom on deceased, they would check the other one. So we had the wrong person dead. So we've moved those all up in a line. All of your little check boxes have moved up. Before, we had different lines for your statuses: single, married and filing separate. We had to find room somewhere, so now we just want you to enter a code for it. We don't have separate lines. It all looks pretty much the same. Thank you. As you go down to Social Security, everything's the same down here. We've moved consumer use tax off of the Schedule ADJ and put it on the form. Other states have done that, and it really increases their collections, because if that's the only thing they need to go to the ADJ for, then they're not even seeing it. So now we're going to put it on the front. Political contribution is off of the Schedule CR. It's on the main form now. We've split up estimated taxes and taxes OPC'd from the front year to help with that thing we were talking about earlier, not knowing how much estimated payments we had in there. What else?
How about the spouse tax?
Spouse tax adjustment. You guys probably didn't have this issue, but we did. Our system, 16A and B should always add up to 9. It's just a breakdown of line 9. Virginia adjusted gross income, and then you're splitting out spouse, and it had to equal in our system, or we rejected it. Now we've adjusted your return by $259. We've eliminated 16B. All you have to put in is 16A. Now our system is going to go up and look at 9, subtract 16A, and it's always going to add up. We're not going to reject as many things now for the spouse tax adjustment. So that really doesn't affect you guys, I guess, with your software, but it's going to help us, I hope.
Overpayment credit? Did you already mention
Yep,
that?
with overpayment credit has its own line. Still there. I think that's the main change.
The new schedule I mentioned?
Oh, the VAC, the two schedules. Now you're going to have 2 lines for contributions on your 760 and CG. One's going to be the Virginia VAC, which is the 529 thing, and the other is the rest of the contributions that you're going to make. We divided those. Issue that may come up if we make an adjustment and your client wants to donate $5,000 and he has 529 contracts, and there are a lot of people out there that do, and we make an adjustment, now he only gets $500. We're going to proportionately split that $500 instead of the $1,000. But now the taxpayer's, he's thinking he's got $1,000 in each account in the 529, and when he goes to look, he doesn't. He's got $500. Who's going to get the call? Us probably, but you guys might. So if we adjust it, we're still going to make the contribution. It's just going to be whatever proportion they had before for that grandkid that they don't like so much. It's going to be divided up just like that. So.
All right, next form. The 502, we've added lines for the credit. There's a refundable credit on there. And the layout, as you saw, we've changed the layout for the 760 to a 2-column, which is easier for everybody to read. All right. That's us. Yes, sir.
Are there plans to allow electronic filing in 770, the fiduciary income tax return?
The question for those online is, are there plans for creating a 770 electronic filing? And the answer to that is yes. I don't have the timeline for it, though. It may be a few years from now, but I think it's in the plan. Our goal is to put everything as much as we can online and make it available to be able to file electronically. Yes, sir.
With several different types of or flavors of Virginia 529, does that include all three different varieties of it? Yes. Including College America, American Funds?
The question is related to the 529. There are three different types of accounts with 529s, and he's asking if we're going to differentiate between them. We are. I mean, we are not going to do. We're going to be given an account, and we're going to put the money into the account that they give us. We're not going to know anything about what it is. There's some question, I think, from my point of view, from my rep's point of view, how we're going to be able to answer questions when these adjustments happen, or the refunds are taken for some reason. What's going to happen?
Well, because those deposits will go different places, your system is going to know how to route that.
No, we're going to make one deposit.
Yeah, one deposit.
If we figure out your total contribution to 529 is this, we're going to make a deposit to the 529, then they're going to split it. But we'll have a breakdown for them as to, what goes where. But yeah, you can open any one of those kind of 529s. Now, when they first brought this up, I thought, Grandma, they're going to be sending that refund to the grandkids. I don't know about that now. The more I think about it, who's going to get advantage of that $4,000 deduction? If Grandma sends it, she's not the contract owner.
Right.
She's not going to get it. I'm going to give it to my son and let him send it in. It made more sense, but we'll see. They're thinking they're going to make a lot off of it. Remains to be seen.
But even though on Virginia's side you're not determining how to invest that money, it's still got to go to different places, be it this direct with the state 529 or direct at Americans funds 529.
We're sending it, as far as I know, unless something changed, to one bank account with that person's social. Here, Jeremy Armstrong would like to give this to these contracts.
But there's two different custodians there.
Kind of, yeah.
We can ask I don't think to answer your question fully, I think we're going to need to go back and verify that, because I always look at things very simplistically, and you put an account down and they take it and they disperse it to the kids that are recognized on that tax return. We're going to provide them with very little information when we send it. These are the names of the kids. I wish I wish we had the form. I could show you the form, how it's broken down. I believe it is.
Yeah, it is.
I believe it's out.
It's early release.
I read yesterday that the pass-through entity returns are going to have to be filed electronically this year. I read that yesterday. Is that right?
Yes. It is a requirement or mandate, January 1 for 2014.
You still maybe I misunderstood the question. For some few that opt not to file electronically, is that still?
Yes, they have to complete a waiver form. They need to be submitted to us, and then we can. Our processing group gets those waivers, and they go in and they mail the forms to the taxpayer to complete. And they get a year. They get a year every. They have to do that requirement every year. Complete that waiver form every year if they.
Because on these computer forms, what I think is a two, the taxpayer opts out of e-filing.
Yes,
That is gone now.
it will be. If I understand what you're saying.
For 2014, does everybody have to
Yes, everybody will have to file.
electronic?
Yes, sir. That's the requirement.
For those that don't want to,
They have to complete a waiver form. Yeah. I don't have any information on the penalties for not. So, there are people that still file by paper that should file electronically, and they're notified that they should be filing, following the mandate.
What about electronic submission of a 760C?
For,
additional documentation?
Yes.
Or should you just file paper when you have that exception?
I don't know if I can answer that question. Right now, I know you got to do it by paper. I don't think there's any way for it to be submitted electronically, but that's a very good.
Or could it be an attachment?
Right, exactly. I'm thinking it should be, in my mind, that we should be accepting those, but I'd have to ask our processing folks or our electronic group that does that. Any other questions?
Yeah.
I have a comment for I-5.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure it is only my case, but when I filed the sales tax and waive 5, all those things, compared to federal system, Virginia is quite unreliable. What I mean is sometimes it works very well, sometimes it just disappears sometimes.
Yes, sir.
And it's been for a while, but it never improved. And I'm wondering how we can.
I am too.
Okay.
The question, if you didn't hear him, how can we make iFile reliable? And I don't know that answer. I wish I did know the answer. I can tell you, you ought to be glad you're here today instead of working on returns because downtown we lost connectivity earlier today because Verizon, somebody cut the fiber lines. So we've had connectivity issues all day long because of a Verizon issue. But stability on the network. I'd love to point fingers at someone else, but I'm not going to do that today. But I can bring it up. I know we've said the same thing too in my world because we get the calls. We get the calls from folks saying that they can't file and they need help.
Contractor, those guys receive a whole lot of money, but they
Yes.
don't improve the system.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Thank you all for listening.
All right. Thank you for coming and answering our questions. And for those of you that are here, remember to fill out your attendance forms, turn those in, turn in your badges so we can recycle those. And